Hi there, and welcome. Steve Wills here. Thanks for joining me. In this particular video, I'd like to give you a glimpse into the complete new redesign of Workflow Ascendant. In this new version, I believe what once started as an innovative idea has the potential to be a transformative technology. So we've gotten back to simply workflow. We've taken it down to the very basics. The system used to be multilingual. There was X pages, ODBC routines, Excel routines, various bells and whistles. We've gotten rid of all that. On the back end, we have tried to minimize the footprint. There's been a total rewrite of the code. We've restructured the script libraries. We've minimized the design elements, naming each one, beginning with WA, to better distinguish between our code and yours. And we now create applications via an MTF file. Now, there have been a few changes to the methodology, one of which is the one I'll focus on in this video, that has been transformative. There used to be two separate worlds. There were manual rules. These were basically rules that had no conditions. So you can see here, rejected and to be modified. And there were automatic rules, and those based on conditions. And those we indicated with letters to distinguish the two. We've gotten away from all that. Now there is just one rule. With a very simple insight, we now treat all rules as conditional. And the insight is this. We have simply used an @true for those rules where there is no explicit condition specified. And so now we can treat all rules as conditional. Should have been obvious perhaps from the very start, and this may seem very simple, but it has had enormous implications, both on the front end, ergonomics, as well as the back end code, simplifying everything. So let's take a look here. We're going to create a state in the new system to show you how that works. This is our classic example of a manager sending it back to the author for modification, rejecting it, or approving it. And it gets routed based on the amount in total, either to director or CEO. So this is the error system that we now have in the system. It's used throughout. With those red dots, it will indicate the fields in question, dialog box containing the relevant message. So here will be the 4 rules that we will create. This will send it back to the state to be modified, back to the author. Rejected, of course, archiving the document. And now to director. If the total is less than 500, notice the alias. You must have aliases. And that would be what would be displayed to the end user. And what we're adding here is what we want to be reflected in the historical log of each workflow document when that particular rule is executed. And there's an example that you see there. That's it. So the methodology, as opposed to the previous example, which was very practical, this one is somewhat barbaric, but I hope helpful in explaining principles. As you can see here, there are 2 actors. We have director, who would be presented the states AAABBB. And here we have those dedicated for production. As you can see, the various options that would be presented to the end user. And what I'd like to particularly attract your attention to are these if-then-else statements that you can intersperse inside the state as you so see fit. So let's see what that looks like in practice. We'll fire up the So we'll send 2 documents into the workflow and process doc 112. We'll use the amount 550, which should send us to state GGG if validated is selected. So we'll go in as production. E1 is the production profile. We will send it. We'll hit validated. And as you can see, the document was routed to state GGG. Now let's have a little bit of fun here. I'm going to insert a new rule for production. And you'll notice here that I am actually breaking the if-then else statement. As you can see, I'm right in the middle of it. And if I hit save, the system is going to flag it as such. So it has to be contiguous, your conditions. Now get rid of that. And now I'm going to insert another rule which you may find somewhat surprising. In the middle of the production rules, I'm going to insert one for director. And the system acceptance. The reason why is that there is a type of operation which is called extended parallel, and where the state rules can actually be integrated on the fly. We'll explain that in a subsequent video. So let's see how the system reacts to that new definition, where the rules for a given actor are not contiguous in the state. And as you can see, the system has correctly reconstituted the rules for that user. Lastly here, you might imagine a particular application where the rule is just too complex to put in a state document. So I'm going to call this I put this in the wrong spot. Bear with me. Let's call it big complex formula. Imagine that it's a big routing formula. So I'll create the workflow document. And of course, where does that go? It's just basically a calculated field in the notes document. So thanks to Notes Domino, we have this tremendous flexibility of putting things in various places and have them work identically. So as you'll see here, the document was routed exactly as the previous one. So now let's take a look at performance. The system, as before, has the ability to validate the workflow not only within a state, but also the coherence of the state, of the total number of states. So I'm going to select the Verify button. You can see I've selected a particular state in a process. And so now it's processing. It's processing. Okay. Several seconds. So it did take some time. That's on a local machine. Here. Enough said. So on the back end, we've tried to create a minimal footprint. So I'm just going to quickly go through the code here. These are the forms. You can see they're all starting with WA, views. So we've reduced all of these design elements. Only 3 subforms. Agents, again, just a couple. And the script libraries. The WA state is what controls the states offline. You can see that the code is extremely well documented. You can see all the various rules that the states are subject to, their definitions. And this is the core, the workflow core system, the runtime. Now we have 2 basic routines, post open. This code represents just a small fraction of what it used to be. Again, because we've been able to optimize, because it really helps to see the end from the beginning. And now query send, this is the code that you would see typically when, this is the code that would be executed when the user selects the send button. And that's all there is. Very simple, but not simplistic. What's not been included, functionality, that's not been included, that was in the previous system, but not in this system, but code that doesn't affect the core, which are basically add-ons. There's real-time delegation, useful when people are not in the office and you don't want a document to be blocked in the process. There were a few admin functions. Basically, the database administrator could assume any role in the process. Can be useful. Also to modify any field in the document, and that was via the view, or change usernames. For example, someone leaves the company and you want someone else to assume the role of that person for those documents that are already in the process. And that's it. Well, I hope you found this video to be useful and helpful in giving you an insight into this new version. Please stay tuned. We'll be releasing this new version to the public relatively soon. I would like to put out a few more videos on how to use this new system before doing so. Thanks again for watching.